Hello everyone, this is SAT vocabulary list number 1. I'm going to go ahead and walk you through the words and the definitions. Some of the definitions, because they are SAT definitions as well, can be a little complicated. I'm going to break down the words. I'll try to give some examples. So if anything I say during this recording is going to help you remember what these words mean, please go ahead and pause the recording, and in your Cornell notes, make a note of whatever it is that I've said, whether it's a root that I've pointed out in the word itself or an example I've given that you think will help you remember this word. So the first word is abase, which means to lower in position, estimation, or the like, to degrade. You can also think of it as, to humble somebody, to humiliate someone. So when you lower the position of someone or something, or you lower the way that you think about them, you think of them in a lower way, you are abasing that person, or, you feel less about them. And so something that might help you remember this is to look at the word itself and underline the word base. So the base of something occurs at the bottom. So if you are to abase and to lower the position, you are moving it closer to the bottom, whether it's physical or just the way in which you think about them. The second word is accustom. It's a verb, and it means to make familiar by use. So if you're accustomed to something, you're used to it. It's comfortable. It's happened many, many times. You almost expect it to happen. And a way to think about this is to underline the word custom. Custom is something that a family or a group or a cultural group or religious group might do over and over again. We all have our own kind of customs as a family. And so if you think about the customs you have that happen again and again, it might help you remember the word accustom, which means to be familiar by use or repetition. Boisterous is an adjective, which means it's a describing word, and it means unchecked merriment. Merriment, think of excitement, enthusiasm, someone who's, and think of merry, being very happy. So this is a very positive word. And they say in the definition here, unchecked merriment or animal spirits. And when you think of animal spirits, just think about when you're really excited and you're out of control almost, and you're almost like, animal-like in your energy, your enthusiasm for something. Number 4 is deficient. Deficient means not having an adequate or proper supply or amount of something. So it's a describing word. So someone who is deficient in vitamin B, they're not getting enough vitamin B for their body to be, totally healthy. So they're going to have to eat more vegetables that have vitamin B in them in order to get that vitamin, or, vegetables or whatever kinds of food, to increase their levels of vitamin B to become more healthy. So deficient just means not having enough of. Evasion, number 5, is a noun, and it means escape. It is the escape. Now, to evade is the verb form of this word. So to evade is the verb, evasion is the noun. Number 6 is incoherent. And incoherent starts with a prefix. A prefix is a root that happens at the beginning of a word. And so in has been attached to the beginning of the word coherent. Now, someone who's coherent is very logical. They make a lot of sense. When you add the in, which means not, the root in means not. So someone who is incoherent is not coherent. They're not logically coordinated. What they're saying doesn't make sense. The parts, the elements, the details don't fit together. So something that's incoherent is not logical, it's not understandable. So if you imagine you've had to undergo surgery and you're waking up after, you've been given a lot of medication, you might say things that are incoherent. They don't make sense because you're a little loopy, you might be a little foggy from the medication. Sometimes even my small children, when they wake up from a long nap or in the morning, sometimes they're mumbling and they're a little incoherent because they're just waking up. They're not making a lot of sense. Number 7 is epiphany, and an epiphany is a sudden realization. They define it as a sudden intuitive perception or insight into the reality or meaning of something. But it really is just a sudden realization about the truth of something. So if someone's been meditating for years and they've been meditating about their purpose on the planet, why are they here? And then one day during a meditation, they get it. They understand their purpose. That person has had an epiphany, a sudden realization about the reality or the truth of something. And number 8 is irrational. And irrational is another example of a word that starts with a prefix or root, IR, also meaning not. So IN and IR, when attached to the beginning of a word, also mean not. So this means irrational means not rational. So someone who is rational makes a lot of sense. They understand things as they are. However, someone who is irrational is not possessed of reasoning power or understanding. This is an adjective, so it describes someone. So someone who is irrational isn't able to fully understand something, either because they're so upset they just can't be made to understand the truth of something. Sometimes when you're worked up about something, it's hard to be rational, to think logically, to process, to understand what's happening. Number 9 is listless, and listless is an adjective, and it describes someone who is inattentive. I think this definition is a little limiting because listless it implies that the person is really low energy. Maybe they're easily distracted, but they're not paying attention because they're low energy. They're not attentive. So to be listless is to be inattentive. Parody is a verb. It can also be a noun. The verb form of parody is to render something ludicrous or to make something ridiculous by imitating the language of it. So if you make something ridiculous by copying it, you're basically going to parody it. You're parodying it. A parody is the actual act. And so if you think of South Park or The Simpsons or any of those shows that kind of they'll use a Shakespeare play and they'll recreate it and they'll kind of make fun of it. So that would be a parody. Number 11, persecution, means harsh oppression. And oppression, think of pushing someone down, treating them as less than, taking away their rights. So to persecute is the verb form. To persecute a group of people means to oppress them, to push them down, to take away their rights. And a lot of the next few words we're going to be talking about relate to our unit on the Holocaust and genocide. Number 12 is the word Holocaust. A lot of times you're going to see this word with a capital H. And when you see it with a capital H, it is specifically referring to the Jewish Holocaust during World War II. When you see it with a lowercase h, you're talking about any kind of Holocaust. And a Holocaust is a great or complete destruction or devastation. And so a lot of times in our history, you might have heard, or people might have talked about a nuclear holocaust, or the idea that by dropping a nuclear bomb, you could create this complete and total devastation or destruction. 13 is genocide, and genocide and the root side means to kill. Genocide is the deliberate and systematic extermination of a national, racial, political, or cultural group. So the systematic killing. So extermination means to get rid of, to kill. So the systematic killing of a group because of their religion, because of their political associations, because of their culture. Number 14 is stereotype, and a stereotype is a noun, and it's a simplified or standardized conception or image of a person or a group of people. So really, really common stereotypes are, people who wear glasses are smart, love school, right? Blondes, and I can say this because I'm blonde and I've heard these jokes my whole life, that blondes are not as intelligent, that athletes aren't as intelligent. However, if you look at the wide variety of athletes, right, there's many people who are athletic and very, very bright. many people with blonde hair who are extremely intelligent, many people who wear glasses who, you know what, school might not be their thing. So it's a very oversimplified view of a group of people. And our last word on this list is luminescent. And luminescent is an adjective, and it describes something that produces light. And actually, it begins with a root, the prefix lum, which actually means light, to give off. So luminescent describes something that produces or gives off light or is glowing.